Hey everybody, how are you? It's good to be here today and to support this amazing event and week. I think this is the last day, is it tomorrow's the last day of what Rosalice has done. Thank you so much for doing this, Rosalice, for creating this for the Grassroots Law Project Fund. Please do go to at International Arts Collective Instagram page and donate if you haven't already, spread the word, etc. So I am Nicolette, and I do have a disclaimer. I do need to let you know that just to make sure that I am really sharing everything that I want to share, that I think will support you. I have got some notes, and I am every so often looking off screen just to check in with them. So if I'm not looking at you directly, know that I still care. It's just because I need to check that things are going according to plan, etc. All right? So that's the disclaimer out the way. And thanks to Arts International Collective for organising this and for inviting me on. So it's really lovely to be here. Now, there's nothing easy about what's going on in the world right now, is there? All the stuff to do with discrimination and to do with racism. And I'm Nicolette. I have a consulting and coaching agency called The Creative Genius, which as an emotionologist, which is what I am, which is the study of emotions, where I support creative clients in managing their emotions day to day so that they can just get through the day and be as powerful and graceful and courageous as they want to be. That's how I'm serving my community at the moment. And I thought that this would be a great opportunity to come here and to share with you guys a few tools to support you throughout everything that's going on. And with everybody having an opinion and emotions rising by the second, I'm really curious about how you're remaining centered and how you are remaining anchored. And not only that, are you remaining part of the conversation? And most importantly, how you're remaining mentally strong. I mean, it's easy to feel helpless. It's easy to feel angry. It's easy to feel frustrated and sad and even held prisoner with our emotions during this time. But the thing is that all of those types of negative emotions aren't going to serve us in order to make change. Staying with them is not going to serve us. And of course, they're warranted emotions and they're spontaneous emotions. But the issue is that if we stay with them, they're not going to fuel us to move forwards and to really create some kind of a change with where we're at. And I don't have all the answers, but there are some people who do have answers, which is really, really good. And with those people, I'm thinking they have their skill. You have your skill. I have my skill. And if we can all contribute with the skills that we have, then I think there's a chance that we can make some change, create some change and be present. And staying strong will allow us to rise above the parapet and be seen and be heard in this instance. I think whilst we're all on our journey supporting change, whether it's for equality, for race, anti-discrimination, whatever it is, I think we must all really play our part in being leaders of ourselves. Yeah, leaders of our own actions, leaders of our own behaviours and leaders of our own thoughts. I think it's really important. And that's why I'm here today, because I want to contribute towards that part of this. If this situation that's going on around and other negative situations are really impacting you, this time together is to offer you 3 very simple steps to reclaim or develop your mental strength. And when you're mentally strong, you have certainty. When you're mentally strong, you have a sense of clarity. When you are mentally strong, you have a sense of conviction of your own beliefs. And you will stand for all that positively affects you. And you'll refuse to tolerate anything that tears you down when you're mentally strong. That's why it's so important. And being mentally strong also gives you the inner power to stand your ground, because you know what your values are, you know what you believe in, and it's very difficult for someone to sway you. You'll fight your corner, and you will rise above that parapet and be seen. So whether it's discrimination where you want to make societal change, or whether, for example, during COVID-19, you've needed to survive financially and find different ways and be creative about stepping into new realms of possibility, I think developing your mental strength will provide you with a very solid foundation to rise from. And if you've got any questions about what I'm saying now, or you'd like any emotional support yourself, I'm actually offering 30 minutes, 30-minute slots of my listening room, which is the place that you can come to with me and just share what's on your mind. Nothing is silly. Nothing is too small to talk about, because if it affects you, if it's impacting you emotionally, then it matters. And it's for you to find ways to overcome it and to move forwards. So if that's something that you'd like to take advantage of, all I'm asking you to do really is to donate to this wonderful Grassroots Law Project Fund in exchange for 30 minutes of my time with you to support you. Maybe there's something you want to unravel, and we can do it together. So all you need to do is go to my page, my IG page, which is Creative Genius Coach, at Creative Genius Coach, and just message me. And I'll be around till about 4 o'clock today, so we can have a chat after this. All right. And also for the donations, in case you don't know, details are at International Arts Collective on their IG page. Alrighty. And my website, actually, just in case you want to know, is thecreativegenius.co.uk. Alrighty. So this Insta live is very different to the ones that have happened all week, isn't it? Because there's been lots of beautiful dancing and moving and ways of expressing yourself, whereas this is very much about the mind, because the mind is our hard drive. It's what guides us. It's what allows us to make those different movements when we're dancing, etc. And I think today I'd like to really share with you about mental strength, talking about mental strength, and these 3 steps, they're so simple, just 3 steps that will support you and assist you in just staying strong during adversity, which is so important. So I want to say hi to those people who have joined since I've started. Danielle, Meg Morley, Music, we've met. Nice to see you. And Fieldwork Stance. Thanks for joining, guys. Great to have you. So we're going to talk about the 3 steps to mental strength. And I did do a disclaimer at the beginning for those who weren't here, to say that I do have notes. I am looking off screen every so often, but as much as I can, I'll give you eye contact, because I want to make sure that you get the most out of this and that I give you everything that I've intended. So let's talk about those 3 steps, and they are as easy actually as A, B, C. Why? Because I've created them that they begin with A, and they begin with B, and they begin with C. So they're really easy to remember. And the first step to supporting, building, developing your mental strength during challenging times is accept and acknowledge. Accept and acknowledge. Oh my gosh, so important. Because when you accept an experience or a situation, it doesn't mean that you agree with it. Yeah, that's the first thing to make very clear. You are not consenting to it. You do not necessarily agree with it. But what you are doing is acknowledging the truth about what is happening. So in order for me in this moment, for example, to support the change that we're presently fighting in the world, I really need to accept all the stuff that's happened with George Floyd and all the previous discriminations that have happened. It doesn't mean that I agree with it. It doesn't mean that I consent to it, because I certainly don't. But in order for me to be able to move forwards and support the journey of change, I've got to acknowledge the truth of what happened. And I can then move past the emotions that might paralyze me. And I can move on to emotions that give me a sense of motion. You know, emotion is energy in motion. So it's about moving forwards, developing, encouraging, everything about change, positive change. So in order for me to be able to manage my emotions, which are not negative, we have negative emotions, but the emotions are not negative. So when they stay with you, they become negative and impact you physically and mentally. But emotions themselves, they allow us to move, and we're going to go with them and really jump on the positive aspect of what they are. We can only do that when we understand that that's what they are. So I think, by doing this, accepting and acknowledging, I am giving myself the chance to have some mental space. I'm giving myself to digest what's happened, and I'm giving myself to put what's happened in a place that allows me to then have more space to move into. What am I going to do about this? How can I support it? And it means that the mind won't be clogged up with the whys and the hows, and it's not fair, and why me, and all that stuff. And of course, they're all valid questions to ask. But if we wallow in them, if we stay with them, then they create inertia, that movement of just being stuck. They create non-movement. And we want to keep moving. We want to keep moving. And if I stay in a place of inertia, I'm going to find myself robbed of mental strength. And I'm also going to feel really helpless, powerless, and often pretty useless. And that in itself can create a tirade of mental responses emotionally. Now, at some point, we must accept the truth, and we must acknowledge the experience that we're having, or that has happened around us, in order to move on, because otherwise the focus becomes non-serving and it becomes self-destructive. So I think, to really home in, the first thing to consider when ensuring that you stay mentally strong is important, especially during those times of adversity, when you have challenging times, when you're suddenly thrown off your path. It's really important to avoid being derailed by distracting emotions, those emotions that take us away from the focus in hand, what's critical to resolve right now. And we really need to remain focused. And to do that, we can acknowledge and we can accept what's gone on. And by doing that, you're developing your ability to manage your thoughts and to regulate your emotions. So that first one, A, is acknowledge and accept. Really important, okay? First step, the first tool. And the second one is B, action focused. So remember, this is A, B, C. So the second one is be action focused. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it might be that an experience has resulted in something that you actually can't resolve. Unfortunately, like death, you can't resolve death. Or as with the COVID-19 experiences where you've lost your next source of income, that's something that can be resolved, even if we think it can't. And these are truths, yes, they're truths and they're facts, but you have the choice about how you respond to them. By taking action of any positive kind, you shift your brain into a really positive growth mindset where the belief is that anything is possible. You get excited about the possibilities that are out there, and you start to step into a space of newness, of creation. You visualize, you understand that what is happening right now, but it's not tomorrow, and it will pass. So once you can really appreciate that by taking action, by doing anything, it could be just getting out of bed, it could be making a call to someone, it could be writing an email, doing a post, it could be making a cup of tea. You are in motion, yeah? By doing that, you're sending messages to the brain. You're allowing really good positive hormones to be elicited within the body, which is going to create an effect of, oh, well, I'm not necessarily feeling the way I did a second ago, which means that if I keep doing this, I might feel better as I keep moving on. So emotion, energy in motion, keep moving, be active. So how might you do this? Well, you might ask yourself questions like, what are my possibilities right now? Okay, what's one thing I can do to get me out of this funk? You might ask yourself, do I need help with this? Not being afraid to ask for help. And if you do need help, you should really go to that person. Who would it be? What would it be? And go and seek it, actively seek it. And if the answer's no, then you might want to ask yourself, what's obvious right now in this moment that I'm not seeing that needs to be done? You know, what's hidden? Because unless you highlight the fact that it's hidden, it won't surface, it just stay hidden. So you ask yourself, what's obvious right now for me to do? Take action on it. That's the important thing. Take action on it. So whether it's about confronting a fear or doing something you'd rather not do, just take action. That's the biggest thing I'd like to say about the be active. And I'm going to move on to that third one right now, okay, which is C. A, B, and C. So we're on C. And control only what's yours. Control only what's yours, beautiful people. At some point in your life journey, there's a good chance that you'll forget that you can't control everything. I think we've all been there at some point. We want to control someone or something or a situation, or someone wants to control us and we're trying to control them controlling us. There's so many different experiences that might impact you as you live. And it might be from the disappointment from parents that you've decided to study music. They're disappointed rather than medicine. They're trying to control you. To the denial of a relationship where you're trying to control the fact that you don't want it to end and you still want it to keep going. There'll probably be moments in your life when you think that you can control someone else, that someone wants to control you, that you think you can control a situation. Okay? And at some point, you'll realize that it's not possible to control anything other than yourself. And it may well be that you're there already. I've realised that, And it may well be that this is an aha moment for you. But whatever it is, you can't control anybody or anything apart from you. And unfortunately, the time in between the darkness and the light, the ignorance and the knowledge, that can often cause emotional concern. That space in between. And the sooner you come to terms with the fact that the only thing you can control in your world, the only thing is you, the sooner you can accept and acknowledge, which is A, and be action focused, which is B. Okay? And actually, I'd like to remind you of something, that your own mind, your mind, is an absolute minefield. It's an absolute minefield, and it can either serve you or harm you. And so we're talking about control here, and we're talking about the mind. But what I want to emphasize here is that when it comes to the mind, if we can replace the words control the mind with perhaps manage the mind, then we can immediately allow for a more compassionate, softer and loving approach to our thoughts, to managing our thoughts. Our mind is very much like a little monkey that runs around, or a wayward child, or a little a baby animal. They're so excited and they're so raw, and they're all over the place. And scolding them doesn't bring the best out of them. In fact, it will get their back up and it will create negative emotional responses, and it will impact them as well. The mind will be the same. If you keep badgering at your mind to stop doing something, it's like in meditation, we often think that we're not supposed to think in meditation. That's not the aim of meditation. It's to manage your thoughts. It's to get to know your thoughts. It's to understand your thoughts. It's to recognize your thoughts so that when one comes up that isn't going to serve you, you can be like, oh, I see you. And you can do something about it. But if we don't recognize it, it's literally going to come up and just take over. So if we can manage our thoughts rather than control our thoughts, we've got more chance of building this beautiful relationship between ourselves and our mind and our thoughts. And I think if we look at it, it's less like forcing an animal into a pen and more like stroking it and being playful with it and loving it to get it there. I think if we think about befriending our thoughts, if we think about keeping our thoughts company, the same way you'd keep yourself company, same way you'll keep someone else company. When someone wants you to be there, it's quite reassuring, isn't it? It's quite loving when someone says, oh, stay with me. So if we can do that with ourselves and find a way to keep ourselves company, mindfully listening to what the messages that our mind and our body, somatically, the language of our body, the sensations of our body, if we can pay attention to those things, then we can kind of decipher the messages that are being sent, and we can respond less reactively and more actively, more positively. And I think when our thoughts are quite destructive and quite catastrophic, which just means that we see it so much bigger than it is, we're making up stories about it, because the brain always wants to have a solution. And if a solution isn't available, it will make one up. So catastrophizing, I think most of us have been, have had that experience at some point, even if we haven't wanted to. The brain just kicks in. So I think if we can, if we have thoughts that are destructive and catastrophizing, I think we can give ourselves permission to let them go and to befriend them if we learn to manage our thoughts and not control them. Now, another thing I want to say here is that when you have thoughts, I'm going to come close, yeah. You don't have to listen to them. Shh. You don't have to listen to them. When you have thoughts coming in your head, look at them as suggestions and offerings. Don't look at them as necessarily the way it is. Challenge your thoughts. Challenge what's going on. Challenge whether it's true, whether it's fact, or whether it's our natural tribal instinct to keep us safe that is kicking in. I better not go for that gig, that job. I better not meet that person because you feel unsafe in some way. How about you try and step out of that uncertainty, create some certainty, and be bold with life and step into newness and possibility, because it's there for you. It's there for the taking. And man, it's exciting, It's exciting. With every adversity, there's a possibility. You just got to find it. It's not always obvious. And some of you may already know this, and I'm just teaching you to suck eggs, and others, maybe this is news. But I just want to share it and remind you and really imprint it that there is a way forwards and a way through. And in this moment, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the next moment. It's just this moment, and you can determine the next. So manage your thoughts by replacing thoughts with affirmative ones, okay, that confirm your ability to take action and to handle what's going on. Because, thoughts are like a pathway. You're going walking down a park and you tread on a pathway, and then you come back and you tread on it again. And then you come back and you tread in it again. And you keep doing this in a repeated action. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to create some kind of an imprint in the earth, aren't you? And that's evidence that you were there. Okay. So if we put that to the brain, in the same way, we have neural pathways, nerve cell pathways, and they send messages. And the more we go along those same pathways with the same action, we imprint it and we create an impression. And then after a while, because we've done it for so long, it becomes a habit. And a habit is something we do in the same way each time. So what we want to be doing is overriding those habits and finding a new way, a new possibility to be a positive way. And we're only overriding the habits if they're not serving us. If you've got a good habit, you hold on to it, man. But if it's a negative one and it's in some way impacting you and not in a good way, then we want to overwrite it. And negative thoughts that stay with us, it's not, I always think, there's no good and bad, right and wrong, but we need to use words to be able to describe those things. So there's no bad thoughts. They're bad because they stay with us or because we act on them and they turn into something that's not so good. But the thoughts that you're having, you have the control to move past them by understanding that you don't have to listen to them. You can just manage them. Thank you very much for telling me that I look rubbish this morning. Thanks. But actually, I kind of feel good. And by the time I brush my teeth and I do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to be on top of the world. Thank you very much. Moving on. So you don't stay with it. Okay? Now, you could have some kind of a mantra, which would be, an affirmative way of moving forwards if you want to override those tracks that are continuously there, that are preventing you from creating mental strength. And so if we did that, we could think of a mantra. A mantra is just a repeated word, yeah? And the energy of the word can really infuse us. Pull yourself up over a wall. And there's 5 minutes before you do that, because you got to pull yourself up over the wall. You then go and do press-ups, or you go and do some bench press, or you go and do something that's going to allow you to pull yourself up. Maybe do some pull-ups. Kind of futile in that moment, for that next moment, because you're not going to be strong enough. You needed to have been practicing along the way so that when you need the pull-up, when you need to be courageous, when your mind needs to be strong, you're like, I got this, I'm on it. I'm not saying it's easy, but I know how to do it. So it's very much an ongoing habit. And you want to create a habit here. You want to create a habit here. So this is why practicing building strength should be a daily practice. Do you have a morning ritual, for example? I say morning, it doesn't have to be, that morning of between 6 and 9, that kind of thing. Whatever your morning is, because we all have different schedules. And if we're creative, often, we're either owls or we're larks. So whatever your morning is, do you have a ritual that gets you to where you want to be? Have you asked yourself, what do I need to be the most powerful person that I can be? And then have you put it into place as a ritual in the morning for the start of your day? And it might be that you incorporate some kind of a mantra or affirmative language or writing or a journal, whatever it is that will allow you to remind yourself after slumber that you are amazing and that you are loved and that you have love for yourself and that you are grateful. What is it that's going to do that for you? I strongly encourage some kind of a morning ritual, and it's different for everybody. So there'll be times when you really need to dig majorly deep to overcome adversity. And if you have some kind of a daily practice, something that's a habit for you, something that supports you when you're out and about and you come to a situation where you feel threatened or you feel in danger or you feel uncomfortable, and you can come back to that pillar of strength, whether it's a word, whether it's a colour, whether it's a vision, whether it's something in your bag that you can pull out. Do you have that? That's your tool, one of your habitual tools for creating your mental strength, and practicing that before you need it at the time, as well as having it for when you need it. And I think it's really important to be ready for when we need to be strong mentally, because we actually need it to survive. And it's like going into battle without armor. Why would you do that unless you wanted to kill yourself in some way? And often the mind will take us on that journey of doing stuff that self-sabotages us due to fear, anxiety. And we don't need to be in that state. We are strong and powerful enough to be able to override that, to override the default of the brain, which is about survival, and think at the front of the brain, which is about logics, and it's about reasoning, and it's about action and making things happen. We can do that. You can do that. We can do it together. And that's how we're going to create change en masse, together as one, by believing that it's possible, by seeing the vision and stepping into it. So I really encourage you to see how you can incorporate those 3 tools, the A, B, and C, into some kind of a daily habit. And just to recap what they are, A is accept and acknowledge. Accept and acknowledge. And if you're just coming in now, like Louise and Olivia, hello, back. Yes, I'm back. So for some of you, I might not have gone away. For others, I might have, but I'm back. Hello. All I was saying was, for those of you who have joined, like some lovely people here, Rimadan, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, Rimadan, Tierney, Law, Olivia, Louise. The stuff that I'm going to recap on very briefly now. If you're interested in hearing more about it, you can just watch the video again, okay? And also, thank you so much, Meg, for you saying thank you. I acknowledge that. Right, so recapping now. A, accept and acknowledge. B, be action focused. And C, control only what's yours. Control only what's yours. Don't take on someone else's backpack unless you really want it, Carry your own. So start the habit of building positive habits and strong minds today. And that's it. And there you have it. Those are my 3 steps to building mental strength. And I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for showing up and just for staying with me, for working with any tics throughout technology of this, where I feel like I'm talking to myself, but I know that you're there, you're waving at me, and I thank you for that. I feel your energy. Thank you to Creative Director Rose Alice of International Arts Collective in support of Grassroots Law Project Fund for organising this. And thank you, Rose Alice, for inviting me to contribute and be a part of this change. I really appreciate it, and for creating this.